All right, so the last part of operant conditioning, okay, we talked about this idea of reinforcement, which is increasing behavior. Now we're going to talk about decreasing behavior or punishment, okay? So punishment has the opposite effect of reinforcement. These consequences make the target behavior less likely to occur in the future. Okay, so again, just like in reinforcement, we had positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, and we looked at positive and negative as adding or taking away. We're doing the same thing with punishment. Okay, positive punishment is you're adding something unpleasant or aversive to get the behavior to stop. Okay, for instance, spanking a child would be positive punishment. Okay, and again, this is hard for a lot of people because you hear the word positive and then you hear spanking and you're like, no, that's not positive. But again, you have to remove the good and bad connotations from positive and negative and strictly think in terms of adding and taking away. Okay, negative punishment is you're taking away something pleasant or desired. So no TV time, no attention. The minus is the negative here. Okay, so you need to take something that the person wants away in order to decrease the behavior. And again, positive does not mean good or bad. Okay, positive does not mean good or desirable, and negative does not mean bad or undesirable. So when is punishment effective? Well, punishment works best in the natural settings that when we encounter punishing consequences from actions such as reaching into a fire. In that case, operant conditioning helps us to avoid dangers, right? You only have to do that once. You reach into a fire, okay, and you get burned, you're adding something bad, pain, you're not going to reach into a fire again. Okay, and punishment is effective when we try to artificially create punishing consequences for others' choices. These work best when the consequences happen as they do in nature. Okay, so again, anytime we can recreate natural punishers, they work best. Now, severity of punishment is not as helpful as making the punishments immediate and certain. Okay, so severity has nothing to do with it. It's more important to make sure that the punishment comes immediately after the behavior, okay, and that there is a certain exact punishment. So what are some of, the problems with physical punishment? If we kind of want to move over to this parenting realm. Okay, punished behaviors may restart when the punishment is over. Learning is not lasting. We find that punishment is not an effective way of getting behaviors to stop. Okay, so instead of learning behaviors, the child may learn to discriminate among situations and avoid those in which punishment might occur. Okay, instead of behaviors, the child might learn an attitude of fear or hatred, which can interfere with learning. This can generalize to a fear or hatred of all adults or many other settings. Okay, and physical punishment models aggression and control as a method of dealing with problems. So when we start talking about observational learning later, we're going to see that, physical punishment can also be modeled in terms of observational learning as well. Now, don't think about the beach. Whatever you do, don't think about the waves, the sand, the towels, the sunscreen, the sailboats, the surfboards. Don't think about the beach. Are you obeying? Would you obey this instruction more if you were punished for thinking about the beach? Okay? The problem, okay, is punishing focuses on what not to do, which does not guide people to a desired behavior. Even if undesirable behaviors do stop, another problem behavior may emerge that serves the same purpose, especially if no replacement behaviors are taught and reinforced. Okay, so the lesson here is in order to teach desired behavior, reinforce what's right more often than punishing what's wrong. Okay, so again, this is, a very kind of a good lesson or a good kind of thing to think about. If we're always focusing on what not to do and we're never focusing on what to do, is that part of the cycle that's happening? So instead of saying, don't do this, should we be focusing more on all the good things and rewarding you for the good things that you do? And then eventually would the undesirable behavior just naturally go away? So, more effective forms of operant conditioning, the power of rephrasing. Now, this is huge in the study of operant conditioning, especially when applying it to behavior modification. So, with positive punishment, you would say something like, you're playing video games instead of practicing the piano, so I am justified in yelling at you. Okay, positive punishment, you're adding something bad, you're adding something good to the situation. No. I was totally wrong. You're adding something bad to the situation in order to get them to decrease the behavior. You're adding yelling, okay? Negative punishment was you're avoiding practicing, so I'm turning off your game. You're taking away something good in order to get them to stop avoiding practice. Well, what about if we said, with negative reinforcement, I will stop staring at you and bugging you as soon as I see that you are practicing. So again, with this, you'd be taking away something bad, right, in order to get them to increase their behavior. Okay, with positive reinforcement, after you practice, we'll play a game. Okay, adding something good in order to get them to perform the behavior that you want. Some people like to say that positive reinforcement is kind of like bribery. There's some parallels. So, in summary, what are the types of consequences? Okay, when we add a stimuli, we have positive reinforcement, you get candy. Okay, positive punishment, you get spanked. Subtract a stimuli, negative reinforcement, I stop yelling. Negative punishment, no cell phone. But again, the thing to remember here, okay, is anytime you have a reinforcer, you are strengthening the behavior. Anytime you have a punishment, you are reducing a behavior. So when you are trying to figure out if a question were to ask you something about which is this positive, negative reinforcement, punishment, the first thing that you always do is number one, you look at who is the person that is being conditioned. What is their point of view? How are they viewing this situation? The second thing you look at is the behavior increasing or is the behavior decreasing? Because that is going to then tell you if it's a reinforcement or if it's a punishment. Then you figure out if it's negative or positive. But again, one, you always look at take the point of view of the person being conditioned. Two, is the behavior increasing or decreasing? Three, is something being added or taken away? So what are some more operant conditioning applications? Well, in parenting, rewarding small improvements towards desired behaviors works better than expecting a complete success and also works better than punishing problem behaviors. Okay, giving into temper tantrums stops them in the short run but increases them in the long run. Okay, what about self-improvement? Okay, if you want to improve yourself, reward yourself for steps you take towards your goals. As you establish good habits, then make your rewards more infrequent or intermittent. Okay. Oops. All right. All right, so we're going to end here and pick up on some of the differences and similarities of classical and operant conditioning next time.